Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Children. I hope you're safe and well. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Merritt, who's the Head of Academic Engagement at LifeArc. But we are not going to be talking about that and LifeArc. We're actually going to be talking about the upcoming ELRIG Drug Discovery 2025, which is being held in Liverpool on October the 21st to the 22nd, because Andy is one of the program directors and he has put together a fantastic program for you if you happen to go to Liverpool to check out Drug Discovery 2025. So first of all, Andy, it's lovely to meet you. How are you, first of all?
I'm very good, thank you, and it's great to meet you too. Thanks.
Well, where are you calling from, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm actually calling from home, but which is in Buckinghamshire.
And hopefully the sun is shining outside, which is ridiculously hot today. My mother actually.
It is, yes.
We had to switch it off. It's it's a lovely day here in London as well. Right. Now, the first question I want to ask you, though, is not about Drug Discovery 25, though, but actually to learn more about what your relationship has been with ELRIG and what's your history with ELRIG?
Okay, no, that's a good question. So, as you said, my role is head of academic engagement. That's not been my career for 99% of what I've done. I am a drug discoverer. I'm a medicinal chemist by training.
Right.
I spent 20 years working for GlaxoSmithKline and various versions of that before I joined LifeArc, MRC Technologies. It was then about 16, 17 years ago now. So as a medicinal chemist, I was aware of ELRIG from early on in my career, or fairly early on in my career, mainly because it was a sort of biology-driven conference, and my colleagues, people I work with in teams and things used to talk about this. But it's probably when I joined LifeArc that I got really started to get engaged with ELRIG, and that's partly because there were 2 or 3 people within the company, in the biology group, my sort of co-directors in areas of research, who were already heavily engaged. And for those of you listening in who know the ELRIG community, then you won't be surprised if I say the name 𝐾𝐫𝐿RIG, who for many years was a sort of leading light and a driving force behind a significant amount of things that were going with ELRIG. Now, Katie and I used to run the sort of science group and in that sort of practical sense of the laboratories and whatever within LifeArc. So we worked very closely together, and she got me more interested in ELRIG. And then about, I guess it must have been about 10 years ago now, ELRIG started to think, well, we're focusing on biology, we're focusing on screening, we're focusing on technology, but what about the chemistry side? What about that whole point of that part of the science? And so they started to sneak in a little bit of chemistry every now and then and sort of build it up into tracks and things like that. And I was actually lucky enough on a couple of occasions earlier on to be invited to give talks as part of that. So I gave a talk around one of our programs we had about an anti-malarial program. I seem to remember doing one about another area, which was around some kinase work we were doing. So got engaged and involved with that. Next stage came along. I fell in love with the ELRIG conferences at that point. They are, we'll maybe talk about why they're so great later, but you got engaged with that. And then, of course, the whole world shut down and COVID came along, and suddenly ELRIG, so important that it's in person, suddenly had to go virtual. But I had the brilliant job during that virtual time one year of being one of the track chairs for the ELRIG when it was online. And along with a former colleague at GSK, a friend, co-conspirator, Dave Andrews from AstraZeneca, we put together a chemistry track at that time. And we tried to be a little bit different. We tried to be a little bit innovative. It was online, so we tried to come up with methods where people were still very much engaged and involved rather than just sitting there listening to speakers and things like that. So I think we probably challenged the ELRIG folk a little bit from the technology side of things, but it was great fun and that was a great success. So move on a couple more years and whatever. And by then, ELRIG had that concept of we will have chemistry tracks involved as well as the other ones. And at that time, I think it was Professor Simon Ward from Cardiff, who was the director associated with the chemistry track. Now, Simon and I go back a long way together. We've worked together for a number of things for the RSC, Royal Society of Chemistry, and other things, as well as collaborated on projects. So when he was stepping down, I got volunteered to step up, if you like, and become that director. So for the last 2-3 years now, I've been one of the 4 directors specifically focused on those chemistry tracks.
That's brilliant. Well, look, I've got two questions off the back of that. One, obviously, you talked about drug discovery and ELRIG events being so great. So from your perspective, before we go into this year's event, why are ELRIG events so great if you work in drug discovery? And also a subsequent question to that will be, we'll talk about chemistry specifically within drug discovery maybe after that, but why are the events so great for you?
For me, it's been great watching it grow and grow and grow, actually. But it's the people, it's the buzz, it's the energy. I don't know of any other conference in the field which so much focuses around the presentations, but also the exhibition, the stands. We are, as we will be in DD25, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had an involvement in the career zone. So we'll have a LifeArc representation in the career zone, usually alongside GSK and the Royal Society of Chemistry and AstraZeneca and Merck in the past and others as well. And it's all around just that early career, interesting the younger scientists, the people that come along. And it's what helps and makes it so great for that is because of the way this whole idea around ELRIG conferences are structured. So we'll hold it this year in Liverpool. It's a free to attend. You've got Liverpool University, John Moores University, you've got Manchester, you've got various, all easy reach, the whole of that northwest and across to Yorkshire and whatever. And for undergraduates even, but definitely for sort of PhD students interested in what their careers are like and things like that. I can't think that 2 days immersed in that sort of environment at no cost other than getting there. It's a brilliant setup.
No, I agree with you 100%. One thing I was going to ask you, obviously, in terms of chemistry itself and in relation to drug discovery, why do you think chemistry has become so important? What's driven that within the drug discovery space? Because as you said, it started out as biology more, and now chemistry has become an integral part of that.
For that DD component, yes. But if you think about drug discovery and drugs as a whole, in my now too long a career to talk about, we've seen things develop and move on. Our understanding around molecular biology, the understanding around cellular processes, our understanding around pharmacology and physiology and everything else, at the complexity of those systems, and the more we've torn it apart, we're still scratching the surface, but there's so much more going on. I used to make the comment when I first started as an undergraduate doing a chemistry degree. So before I got into this, I think we knew there were 2 5-hydroxytryptamine receptors. That was it. Well, last count I looked, there was probably about 20 or so. Because there's subclasses and whatever. So we've learned so much more. Brilliant biology, using a lot of things like chemical biology, probes, tools, and various other things to do that. But in the end, you want something physical to take as a drug to treat something, and that physical entity is going to be a chemical. And that's why chemistry becomes integral into it, because in the end, it doesn't matter how well you understand the biology, but unless we can come up with a modality and a mode of actually interacting with that, whether that's small molecule chemistry or whether it's the more modern sort of things like degradation or whether it's antisense or whatever, it's still chemistry, it's still molecules that has to come into it. And so it's that integration of the point. Drug discovery is an entire teamwork process. It's not just the biology and understanding it and whatever. You can get a whole career out of doing that as an academic. But if you want to be a drug discoverer, if you want to make a difference to the patients, it's teamwork cutting across all of those things. And that's why that whole chemistry theme becomes important.
Fantastic. Well, look, tell me, let's talk. That it's a lovely segue actually to your particular track, which is entitled Innovative Chemistry and Chemical Biology at Drug Discovery 2025. And that runs across 2 days. So again, tell viewers, if you don't mind, and obviously the viewers, there'll be a link to the full agenda and all the speakers above this video so you can see in more detail. But from your perspective, I mean, what were some of the hot topics and key issues that helped you put the program together?
Okay, that's again, it's a very good question. And first off, it's the sort of thing we have to think about. Be honest, we're already planning 2026. We think about it well in advance and things like that. And for anybody attending 2025, watch out, we'll be announcing the general trends and the general themes across DD 2026, which I'll put an advert for it now, is actually the 20th anniversary of ELRIG's Drug Discovery program. So expect something a little bit interesting in next year in London. But coming back to DD25, one of the things, as I said, chemistry is integral across a lot of that whole drug discovery process. And chemistry itself has got a really strong community and a sort of approach of pulling things together and do that. And one of those groups that we worked very closely with in ELRIG, and actually I'm heavily involved in directly as well, is with the Royal Society of Chemistry. So the Royal Society of Chemistry, the sort of professional body is probably not the Royal, the society body for chemists in general, has a very strong involvement in that sort of biological medicinal chemistry, the BMCS sector that helps to do this. So for a number of years now, that group has co-supported what we do at ELRIG with the chemistry tracks, and is specifically one of the tracks on usually one on day 2 is a co-badge, if you like, with the Royal Society of Chemistry's biological medicinal chemistry sector and their journal, the Journal for Medicinal Chemistry, RSC one. So they tend to bring, and working with me on this, a sort of overview that says, right, can we show the breadth of what chemistry does in that whole drug discovery process? So maybe it's something to do with discovery. This year, there's quite a focus around some of the sort of underpinning technologies and components, but sometimes it might be more focused on the sort of more hardcore, how do you do the chemistry and make something at scale and things like that. But by having one track that looks at that, that allows me the luxury, if you like, to have another track that can hone in on key topics at the time and look in on specific things. And so this cycle round, I guess we're going in to look at the chemical biology and omics in a sort of broadest sense. And by omics, we're talking about proteomics, we're talking about the various other aspects, metabolomics, the various other aspects that underpin using chemical tools and chemical biology, again, the understanding of how to find new drugs, how to find new targets, how to do things like that. So it gives me that element of flexibility there.
And then in terms of the speakers and some of the topics, and what can people look forward to at this year's event in terms of your particular track?
Okay, I think if we look at day 1, where it's this is the track that's been put together by Matthias and John. There it's the omics, looking at the omics side of things. I think it's kicking off with a brilliant talk, which is coming in from a company called PharmEnable, who I have had the privilege of working with on a couple of programs. And here they're bringing AI. They're bringing an aspect of those modern technologies into understanding how to identify new targets, how to identify new starting points for drug discovery programs. But I would say with PharmEnable, you know, they've done the job. They've demonstrated it's doable. They've demonstrated it's effective and whatever. And I think that's going to be a great kickoff from that one. Later on in that track on that first day, I'm also delighted, and it comes back to my comments about why I sort of like ELRIG so much. We're giving some of the future talent potentially a chance to shine to a certain extent. So what John and Matthias did, they approached 2 or 3 key groups and said, you know, would you like to talk at this? Would you give us something on this? And it was but if you want, or if it would be more sensible, let's have one of your researchers from the group rather than, you know, the person everybody's heard from again and again to do that. So you've got things like there's I think we've got 2 or 3 students who are either coming towards the end of finishing their PhDs within the groups or a postdocing and whatever. There's one's from Barcelona, IRB. There's Jack, who's coming from Ed Tate's group down in Imperial. I think there's Nicola coming from Munich as well. So there's 2 or 3 people who are, well, you know, they live, breathe and everything. I remember my time when I was finishing my PhD, going off doing my postdoc and that sort of thing. And, you know, you could not shut me up from the enthusiasm of talking about the work we're doing. So I'm expecting some great talks and great presentations out of those guys. Then on the second day, this is when it's the sort of RSC driven track and the driven course in terms of that. Again, kicking off with what I think will be another great highlight for the chemists who are in the audience there. And that's Lynn Jones, who's from Harvard. He's coming over from Harvard. I know him more from his time at Pfizer. He used to be at Pfizer. He was originally at Pfizer down at Sandwich, then moved out to the States. And a lot of really exciting things around using covalent and approaches of chemical biology to modify surfaces of receptors or enzymes and various other things. So there's some really good things in that. Later on, I think we've got a couple of talks around some of the technologies, mass spec approaches for tools and things like that. And then the whole program rounds off again with what will be a brilliant talk, I know, from Rebecca Goss, who is talking about really precision engineering of proteins and the chemistry associated with that, again, to elucidate some of those things. So I think those are going to be brilliant. Oh, the other thing just to say also, coming back to that, it's all about the next generation of science and whatever. One of those slots within that second day talk track on chemistry, I can't tell you who's talking yet, because we deliberately leave it for 2 selected posters. So the team, the RSC team behind the track, will where are we now? Probably from about this week onwards, we'll be suddenly delving into all of those chemical biology posters that have been submitted from the thing, and they will pick 2 of those posters and go to those people who are presenting those posters and say, okay, we can give you 10 minutes or 15 minutes to come and talk because we just love what you've got on there. So again, it's quite exciting to know what will come out of that one.
Well, it is, and viewers, if you're there, make sure you check out those talks. Now, obviously you do love ELRIG and you love the event, so you've got your own event, which I know you're very passionate about. But apart from your own event, what other things and other tracks or talks or other events are you looking forward to?
That
Drug Discovery in Liverpool.
Yeah, so in terms of the talks and the various other things, I think the one for me that's going to be another standout, and again, this is playing to my history and bias of medicinal chemistry and things like that, is the keynote that David Owen's given, who will be giving on day 2, I think. So that's the start of day 2, which is he's from Pfizer. He could talk about a lot of different things. He's been involved in a lot of the work, some of the great stuff that Pfizer have done over the years. But I think in this case, he's talking about all the work they did around their COVID work. And it's going to be, I know it's going to be a great talk coming from David. So that's going to be a really brilliant one. Other than that, well, as I say, we'll be there as a presence, as a stand for talking to people about careers and futures and things, not recruiting particularly. We don't go there to do that sort of recruiting program. It's more there to be people aware of us, but also just to encourage and develop and things like that. So we have a whole host of people going up there from LifeArc. There's 2 or 3 people who are speaking or involved in the program. But we use it as a vehicle to take along our early career people as well. So I've got, I think it's 8 undergraduate students who have just finished their placement year with us. They're all presenting posters. They'll be there and they'll just be immersed in all of this, and we sort of cover them going to that. And we've also a number of companies, including ourselves, get involved in coordinating and running fellowships for people who have done the PhD, their biosciences, or various other things, but they're interested in other aspects of their careers over and above just lab work. So we have aspects around technology transfer, intellectual property management, all those sort of aspects. So we've got 4 of our fellows who are involved working with us and 3 of the London universities, Imperial, UCL, and Queen Mary. They're all going to be there as well. So they're there, first of all, so they can talk to potential future people interested in what their careers, because one of the things I get a lot out of from doing these sort of events, and ELRIG is one especially, is you talk to a lot of PhD students who are there, who really love their science, who really want to do something with their science, but the lab may not be quite for them. And this is a great opportunity for people to learn and understand and see all the different things, whether it's talking to people like ourselves or the fellows we have with us, or whether it's talking to the people who are on the stands and the various other things, or the companies and aspects like that. You know, I've seen a significant number of students that I've been supporting over the years in my role at LifeArc, who have moved into all sorts of different fields and different areas, and they're all flourishing. So it's the early career events that they run at the conference, the breakfast where people can just gather and meet, talk about it, the session at the end of day 1, which I fortunately now tend to sit on the outside of and watch and laugh and amused, which is the Network Like a Boss. I don't know if you've heard of this one. This is where they do a session for about an hour or so, where a number of senior people from the industry in various ways, and I have done it in the past, basically give up an hour or so of their time, with beer being fed to them, and the early career professionals get a chance to talk to them for 5 minutes, and then somebody rings a bell and they move on to the next one and things like that. And it's just that practice. It's speed dating, but that sort of networking like a boss, as it's called. So it's those sort of events, it's those sort of things that really fun. The other aspects are things like the emerging technologies and components of that, the tech theatre, the various other things. It's great to see some really young developing companies being given a platform as well. So
brilliant. Well, my final question was going to be, and you've pretty much answered it, if people haven't registered yet, why should they attend Drug Discovery? But I'm going to give you one more chance in one sentence for those people looking at this now saying, I'm still not 100% sure that Andy does give a good story there, why I should be attending.
well,
Why should people
get on with it, because I think registration is closing in about a week or so's time from when I'm talking to you, I think. So we are actually the last event in London, we had over 3,000 people at. This is a big conference. It's a great networking conference. For me, it's the premier UK and probably European based drug discovery, covering the whole scope, with the exhibition, brilliant number of people there, the talks, the accessibility of everybody involved in that, and add on to that, it's free to attend. So all you have to do is give up your time to go along to it.
And that's well said. And actually, I have to say, ELRIG do a lot to try and help people get to the event as well.
They do
many great things, and they do free food as well when people come. So they do a lot. So viewers, as Andy has said, if you haven't registered, you need to register ASAP, because although it's free, and historically you could register right up to the event, because it is so popular, they have now said that there is a deadline to register for free. And after that, you can't register at all anyway, even if you're not even free or paid for. But you have to do it by, I think it's the 30th, I'll double check. But the link is above this video with the deadline date. So if you want to attend Drug Discovery 2025, please click on the link above the video if you haven't, and register now. Because if you leave it too late, even if you want to come, no wonder, and he's done a great sales pitch there telling you why you should be there. And it is a great event. I've been there many years. It's a great event. Everyone really enjoys it when they're there. You do need to register ASAP. Andy, it's been lovely to meet you. Hopefully I'll see you in person in Liverpool as well. Thank you for taking time to talk to me today. Good luck.
No problem. Thank you for the time.
And viewers, thank you for watching. Hopefully I will see you in Liverpool in the not too distant future. Until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.